Welcome, everybody. We are now live for another really special talk with a really special guest today who's going to talk about how can we make conscious system change in the law. It is actually possible for you to start and contribute to the system change by focusing on different things, and especially focusing on values and on integrative models that can really help you make a difference. So today you will be learning all of that with a guest that is recognized as an extraordinary thought leader, mentor, change maker in the emerging field of conscious lawyering. She's the author of many books, including Lawyers as Change Makers, also Problem Solving Law. And she's now working on 2 new books with collaborators, Lawyers as Designers, as well as Trauma-Informed Law, a primer for lawyers in practice. Her name is Kim Wright, and I'm going to bring her right now with me. Hi, Kim. How are you today?
I'm really great. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited. Thank you for making the time. We are now live streaming on LinkedIn as well as on the YouTube channel. So wherever you are watching, whether it's live or even replay, make sure to let us know where in the world you are tuning in from. We'd love to bring the interactivity in this talk today with Kim Wright, and to really get to know a little bit also about your interest as a lawyer, legal professional, maybe a mediator, about conscious system change. To get things started, Kim, I'd love to maybe there's something you would like to share I haven't mentioned in your bio, or something you would like to share just to get this talk started.
Well, I'm really glad you're asking where people are from. It's the first thing I want to know about everybody. And like you, Tessa, I have a history of having been a nomad. And so when I go around the world, I always want to know who people are and where they are, so that when I'm in a place, I can ask them if they want to have coffee. So I really encourage people to let us know where you are. So when I'm there, and I could be anywhere next year, probably not this year.
So, like Kim said, make sure to share a little bit where in the world you are. So, Kim Wright is a digital nomad. I got to meet Kim in person twice, I believe, in Brazil. That was twice in Brazil. No,
In
3 times.
Montreal.
Montreal as well. The first time was in Montreal, and then twice in Brazil. And so we have here a treasure from Nigeria, law student, interested in all things legal tech. I know that this is Isabel from Barcelona. We see here LinkedIn user, but I know this is Isabel. Thanks for being here, Isabel. And make sure to tag someone who's interested in making this conscious system change in the law. Please, yes, do us a favor. Tag someone who may be interested, because this is going to be a really inspiring conversation. You will be learning so much with Kim Wright. She is really, really outstanding at what she does. She's inspired many lawyers to actually get their own confidence in doing the change. So I'm excited. Maybe to get started, Kim, tell us a little bit, what is legal system change according to the integrative law model that I believe you have developed, right? And how can it be helpful for legal professionals and citizens alike?
Well, I really consider myself more of a reporter of what's happening in the integrative law movement. I uh, I have done some shaping, but mostly I've been listening to what's going on. And so what I've been watching and paying attention to is a whole new paradigm of law that is focused on like understanding our interconnectedness, which is part of the systemic part. It's more reflective. So lawyers are actually doing their own work that sometimes has to do with values or purpose. And the whole mindfulness movement is part of this. The whole well-being movement is part of this. And then there's this sort of different level of consciousness that lawyers have that the old legal system doesn't have room for and hasn't encouraged.
And so when you talk about encouraging this, what can we do to encourage this? Is this going to be something good for lawyers, good for citizens, good for the system too? And how can we get to be a contributor? I would be super curious to know.
Well, you are a contributor already. Some of the things are sort of the very basic, like showing up. When we're in law school, we're taught that a lawyer looks a certain way and says certain things. Lawyers litigate, and they don't have feelings, and they have this facade of not caring about anybody, including themselves. They don't do any personal growth work because that would be irrelevant to litigation, and in fact might get in the way. So some lawyers are going to be unhappy that all of these things they've learned about how not to be human are actually going to go away. And I think over the last couple of years, year and a half, we've discovered that we are interconnected at another level, and we've been coming into each other's living rooms. We've been coming into your home, and the dog comes, the cat comes, the child comes, the neighbor knocks on the door. Like, we're no longer sort of these distant, rigid beings that are only professional. Like, that word professional has really gotten a fake connotation to it. And so the more we are really authentic and we are willing to step out of that, the more we're making a difference in the system. So when I started doing this work, I started being a holistic lawyer, is what we called it then, back in the mid-90s. And people said, she's the weirdest lawyer in town. And that was meant to bring me in, to keep me from actually doing the things I was doing, which for my clients, they were fantastic. I actually had a counselor in my office and a social worker, and they coached my clients on the emotional issues having to do with their legal cases. I had workshops for clients. We went into the schools and we dealt with children whose parents were divorcing, and so I was doing a lot on behalf of the clients that other lawyers didn't bother to do. And I was doing things like encouraging them to have emotions and listening to them, and there were a lot of different things that I did, and people said, that's just weird, that's not what a lawyer does. And it's like, well, this is what I do. And I started wearing that weird badge as a badge of honor, because I also know that the old legal system, the old paradigm, is not healthy for lawyers or their clients. That lawyers tend to be, at higher risk for depression, at higher risk for addiction. The numbers are really kind of astounding. It's like 2 to 4 times the risk that.
We've got someone who wants to join the
Someone
conversation.
wants to join me. So lawyers are actually pretty miserable. We have low reputations in the community, and that all builds up to this lack of civility among lawyers. Professor Susan Dykoff has written about that. She calls it the Tripartite Crisis. Lawyers don't like each other, they don't like themselves, and the people don't like them, because of this, like this reptilian or shark mentality that we are actually trained. We're trained out of our humanity in law school because that's considered professional. So now we can't be that way anymore. And so we all can be a little weird without being seen as too weird. But the weirder you're willing to be, which I consider that being in a community that allows you to be yourself actually gives you courage to do that. And that's part of what the integrative law movement is about. It's about creating that community where if somebody's doing something like, legal design was weird a few years ago. And now it's like, oh, yeah, we've heard of that. Most people know what legal design is. Things like restorative justice and collaboration and mediation was so new back when I started practicing that it was like the fax machine. Oh, I'm never going to do that, said most lawyers. And then the next thing they do, no, they're doing it, and it's normal. And so that's sort of like when you ask questions about what is the integrative law movement, it's really complex because each lawyer is expressing that by integrating their whole selves with their practice, and also integrating masculine and feminine energy, integrating other skills they have. Like, lots of lawyers study psychology, but we are never trained to apply like human dynamics in law. That's that thing over there. But what if you actually worked with another professional who actually knows more? Like, in my case, I had a social worker and I had a counselor in my office. It made everybody's life better. And we were really pioneers at that point. I had the first office with a social worker.
This is so inspiring.
In the world, probably.
So there's a lot you have been sharing. We have also Isabel sharing here. So true, lawyers are kind of robots.
Yeah.
And she's really happy to contribute to this, breaking this paradigm. We have Cecilia joining the conversation from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And make sure to tell your network about this live talk so they can join us and be part of the change of paradigm. I was very moved when you said you've been wearing this weird badge for so long. I think I can relate to that too. When I started the journey, people thought I was just crazy. What is she doing? We don't understand. We don't get her. And I was just following my own path.
Yeah.
And living my life and finding a way to be involved in this field using my own sets of values, which is creativity, influence, and others too. But this is so interesting, Kim. So I'm sure like people who are watching are really curious to know then what would be one thing they could do maybe today to start understanding, bringing, how you have said, their wholesome into their profession. What is one thing people could do according to the integrative model that would be fairly accessible for anyone who would like to maybe gain a little bit more confidence in going one step further? What would you recommend them to do?
It really depends on who they are and what they, some of the things they could do, maybe things they already do. But for most lawyers, we're too busy to take time. And so it could be a really disruptive action to look at your calendar, take an hour, and go and sit in nature, and listen to yourself, and ask yourself the questions about where have you been acting in a way that's not in attunement with you, and where can you bring yourself back into alignment. And that includes saying no to people. I'm a coach as well as a lot of other things, and one of the things I love to do with my coaching clients is to have them fire clients. There's that client that takes 80% of your energy, whether they're taking 80% of your time or not, and they're probably not paying their bill. And you keep trying to help them. You keep trying to prove that you are good enough, and they're sucking your soul. They're sucking all your energy, and getting rid of that client opens up a lot more energy for doing things that you really want to do. So that's something people can do. You can find out more about the different ways of practicing. bringing legal design is, as you know, an exciting way. I do the conscious contracts model. You know, there, no matter what kind of law you're practicing, there is a model that is more healthy. It's healthier, and it's more enjoyable for the lawyers, and less stressful. And we've actually had some research. Professor Susan Dykoff did some research about different ways of practicing law that were healthier.
Absolutely. So one tip you could do is take 1 hour of your time. For whoever's listening live or watching replay, take 1 hour of your time and reflect on yourself, your values. How do you want to practice? I thought that was a really great tip. I actually sat down not just for an hour, Kim, but I sat down for, I think it was 1,000 hours to figure out what I wanted to do.
And that's why you're an integrative lawyer.
Well, yeah, that's why I do what I do, because I sat down for a long time in a meditation retreat called Vipassana. It's a center that exists everywhere around the world, and we get to sit down 10 hours a day for 10 days and to just do nothing and just try to understand what's happening in our minds and heads and soul and everything. That was fascinating. I've done it twice, actually. I recommend it. So taking some time off to just reflect and saying no. I think saying no is a big one too. Huh? Thank you, Kim, for bringing that up. It's saying no to others is saying yes to yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's really powerful. I wish I had said more no's in my life than yes. So what are the things we could do in terms of conscious contracting? You have mentioned a little bit about different models that exist beyond the traditional stressful model. You've mentioned conscious contracting. Would you like to share a little bit about this model? What is it? How we can use it? Can we learn it? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So the conscious contracts model was co-created with Alala, Linda, and me. And we were both doing contracts in our weird ways. And we came together a little over 10 years ago and started co-creating, learning from each other. And Alala wrote the book called Discovering Agreement on contracts that turn conflict into creativity. And I've been training all over the world. Alala does some training too. And so we started looking at things like, restorative justice. I've got a strong background in restorative justice, and she has worked a lot with Dominic Barter, who is one of the great restorative justice or restorative circles teachers. And we looked at how do we create actually the environment for a relationship, because that's what a contract is. A contract is a relationship. and we write it down. And so of influences from some folks who have a Collaborative Awareness Institute, and we all came together and said, well, the first thing is, who are you? Like the contract starts with who the people are only by their. It doesn't say why they're doing this and what they're passionate about. We actually ask those questions, and those go into the contract. So the first part of the conscious contracts process is the shift of mindset that we are co-creators, we are not adversaries. And so if we're co-creators and we want to see if this relationship is going to work, we do what is called the touchstone. And the touchstone is like your mission, vision, values, like individually and then collectively. So if you and I were going into a contract, I would want to know about those thousands of hours you've spent and what did you discover about yourself? And I would share what I've discovered about myself. And we would then say, oh, now we know why we're doing this together. And we would write that down. And so we would create this amazing map of our relationship that is something we can go back to and visit and remind ourselves about why we're doing this and what we're doing and what is the vision that we share that brought us to this. And when you're in that place, the next thing is, I don't ever want to get out of this place. How will we relate to each other so that we're always working on that vision together and we're always honoring the values that we've set out? And we call it the ACED, the addressing, change, engaging disagreement. Some people call it the harmony clause, or people come up with different names that fit them. But that's actually a designed way of how are we going to have a conversation when something goes wrong. When I think that you're being mean to me, um, am I just going to slink away and cry until I get so angry that I sue you? Or am I going to say, Tessa, you hurt my feelings? And then you're going to say, like, oh, I was so thoughtless, and you resolve it very quickly. Or, I think we need to have a difficult conversation here because I think that we have lost the thread, or we're going different directions. And so how do you have that? And so the ACED is that recipe for each person, or each for the contract of, how, like I will say, this is how I resolve conflict, or this is how when you see me withdrawing, then you might want to ask me, are you busy or are you angry? And then part of my agreement is, if you ask me that, because I've given you the keys to me when you ask that question, and if you ask me that, my agreement is I'll be honest. And maybe I'll say, I don't know. I'm just feeling kind of tender and I'm going to back off for a little while, but can we have this conversation on Thursday? Or whatever, so that the relationship stays clean. And if the relationship stays clean, you can do that wonderful thing that you're doing together. And then, the contract has, we call it the action plan. It's got all the stuff in it, like you're going to pay this on this date and all that kind of stuff. And we write it in plain language. We use visuals. Some of the people who worked with us have really gotten into comic contracts and are using a comic version of the conscious contracts. There are a lot of different tools. In Brazil, Fernanda Guerra is doing conscious contracts and using constellation. And since I'm in Brazil, Ana Luisa Echelas, I don't know how to say her surname, is training to teach this in Spanish. We actually we have 15 languages among our practitioners. We have a certification program, and I think we have 12 countries represented. And so we're doing this around the world.
That's fantastic. Thanks to everybody who's watching live as well. We appreciate you being here, and make sure to, share your comments and questions with Kim. This is a phenomenal opportunity to get to ask anything you want in relation to the conscious contracting model that Kim just explained, or the integrative law model. I see we have Marina joining in from Brazil, talking about Brazil. And this is great.
Hi, Marina.
Welcome here to the live. I really enjoyed the way you described this conscious contracting model. It's such a big, change from what we used to see when it comes to contracts, asking each other's about our values, about our vision, engaging in arguments in a clean and clear way. How do lawyers react when they start learning and using the methodologies? And even more importantly, how do clients react? I think it's even more important and valid to know, how do people react to those kind of contracts?
Well, I want to talk about clients first, because I think this is what clients have always wanted, and they are delighted. And once a client does one, they can't wait to do another one, because it's not that kind of weapon that, the 87 pages of everything that could go wrong, and you throw it in a drawer and you bring it out and beat somebody up with it when you're angry. That's the old model. It's not that. It's actually like an operating agreement of how we're going to do things. And when something goes wrong, or they're in an uncertain place, they can go and get it, and it'll tell them what's to do next. And so it's like a little coach in the document. When they're finished, they remember, oh, I remember I wanted to work with Tessa because she's really good at something I'm not good at. And so when I see her running with that project because it's something she's good at, I don't need to be angry at her. I need to say, go Tessa, go. And so you know, it's yeah, it's something that helps the client. I mean, people put these up on their walls. And I had somebody the other day had her touchstone engraved into a copper card that she could put in her wallet, so that if she needed to have a reminder, she could just pull it out of her wallet. These are very living documents. And lawyers have two initial reactions. One is this safe? And so I'm actually very pleased to say it's never gone to court, and that means that we're successful. It's never been tested, but we've had judges look at them and say, well, this would actually help me. Like if I knew that this is why these people came together, and it's in the contract, it's not some story. If I knew this is why people came together and what they intended, and something has gone off the rails, I would be able to see more. I would be able to give a more sort of aligned judgment about what to do next. And then that ACED actually is a requirement. You must go through this. What you create, you must go through it before you can file a lawsuit. And so that gets a lot of people out of the court system. So is it safe? I think the answer is, yeah, it's safer. I think it's more sustainable. It can be changed easier because the people can say, wow, we've got a big change here. We need to come and talk about this part. Lawyers get a little nervous about it because it's different and they might be weird. And again, I encourage weirdness. And so far, the people who've been studying this model and using this model have been thrilled by it.
I see the audience is also really into it. Rudolfo says this is a really interesting method. Alexander from Canada is mentioning this is a great topic. Sunashi is saying hello from Veracruz, Mexico. And so given clients seem to really enjoy this approach, and lawyers seem to feel a little bit safer to use it too, because it has proven through the years that it actually works very well. What are the skills legal professionals would need to develop to be able to contribute to this practice of conscious contracting and beyond that legal system change?
I think this first thing, they have to unlearn a lot of things. They have to unlearn all of the pieces of not being human, not bringing all of themselves to their law practice. There are a lot of new skills, like accessing their creativity is really important. Listening much more than talking. Like whatever skills you already have. Like when I teach this at a law school, at Quinnipiac University School of Law, and we teach them nonviolent communication skills, and we teach them things about design. We actually have as part of our law school course, we teach Canva.
And, I love this. I also teach Canva in the law school. I love it. It's great. Let's teach more of the Canva in law school. And the design tools for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, and we teach them sort of that sharing themselves, that like authenticity, like being willing to be open and authentic with their clients, so their clients feel safe and can trust them. So a lot of the things we teach are very core essential skills that are about being human. and allowing your humanity to come through, which is some of what law school discouraged. Law school is like, no, you're a professional. You can't do that. You can't be that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all relate to, you need to fit in that mold and just, just emotionless, powerful, stable
Blue,
and rigid.
blue suit, white blouse, a tie, a skirt for sure, a smart skirt, not a flowing skirt, a really nice smart skirt for the women, very
The
nice
image.
suit for a man. Your office looks a certain way. You have someone who's a gatekeeper that won't let them talk to the lawyer until they've jumped through hoops. They fill out a lot of paper before they ever meet a human. That's what it is around the world to be a lawyer. And if what we're doing is actually just sitting down and getting to know people, it's very disruptive. It's revolutionary.
And I would imagine in the process of building a conscious contract using the methodology, there must be times that are a bit more challenging too. I mean, it sounds really powerful in a good way of empowering people. But there must be some challenging times, challenging situations. What is one common challenge you have seen in your practice in the conscious contract process, and how to overcome it?
Actually, I don't think it necessarily has to be overcome, but the one challenge is that people get together and they actually don't have anything in common, or they're working at cross purposes, and this process uncovers that. And my clients are always really grateful when that happens, because if you're going into a long-term contract, and this is not for a contract that you're going to be involved in for a week, it's for an ongoing relationship. So if you're going into something you're expecting to be business partners for the next 10 years or whatever, if you discover that there's something really not aligned, that your values are working at cross purposes in the beginning, you have just saved yourself 10 years of misery. And you can still stay friends and just say, like we can be friends. We just don't have to do business together. And so it's a good thing when you run into that early in the process. And a lot of lawyers are afraid of, like, well, they're going to, mess up the deal if the people decide they don't like each other. Well, we actually think, good, the deal is already messed up.
Yes, that is a really smart thing to do. I think we can all relate to that. You don't want to be stuck in a relationship that is not a good fit for you or for the other person, So I think this is a really smart thing to do. Tell us a little bit, Kim. What is? I think I've already asked you one thing you would recommend for people to start with legal system change. How about with conscious contract? Is there a little tip you could give, or maybe a bigger one, for people when they do contract, to maybe have a little more consciousness, bring a little bit more consciousness into it? What is one thing people could do starting tomorrow to bring a little bit more consciousness into the contracting process?
It really is a different paradigm. So there are people who try to be more conscious by bringing in plain language or to bring in visuals into contracts. I think those are really helpful. But this idea of going deeper and having these conversations is really part of our model. And we have a training starting November 10th. It's on the consciouscontracts.com site. But it's part of our work is, like I said, the unlearning and the practicing and the getting into getting out of the brain that was trained in a certain way, and getting into the more relational, creative space. And so in our trainings, we go through the model and we practice, and develop our own first version of a conscious contract, and that we can share. And and then people, once you've had that experience, you can look in your own practice and say, well, I think I can do a little bit of it here. But I think that that's sort of a slippery slope of once you see the better way, it's hard to go back to the old way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the audience is going to relate to that too. I'm going to share my screen here to show a little bit the Conscious Contracts website for those of you who may be interested to learn more or even take the training with Kim. It's coming up in 27 days and 19 hours. Is that correct?
That's right.
Starting on November 10. Is it going to be online, Kim?
Online. It's at 12 noon Eastern, the same time slot that we're in now.
And so are you looking for participants, and are you also looking for all kinds of people to participate also for case studies? Or
we don't need clients right now, but we often do. When we teach at the clinic, we have clients from all over the world who are pro bono clients to help our students learn, which is really exciting because law students very rarely have the opportunity to work with people who are international leaders, and the people who come to us very often are doing, like, there's one project that we think is going to be a unicorn, a startup, and they started with their conscious contract with their founders, and the students worked with them, and there are like right now we have I'll see if I can get it right. We have one group of clients that are creating a project together, and they are from Spain, the Netherlands, Canada, and I think 2 or 3 states in the U.S., 3 time zones in the U.S.
That's fantastic.
And so these law students would not have a chance to work at that level in a typical clinic, and so it's really exciting. And we, those kinds of projects, organizations that are international and cross-cultural are a really good fit for us because we actually are looking for how do the cultures influence how they resolve conflict, and things like that get openly talked about.
This is so exciting. We have Alexander here commenting about legal traditions and customs that of the native people that can help the social function of the law and promote the affordability of legal services. We have 2 questions here. We love questions. Rodolfo is asking, Rodolfo from Mexico, what moves a lawyer, let's call it a lawyer, old-fashioned way, to take the training, to know this methodology, or the new way of this mindset? And he has another question as well about law schools these days. Are they changing, starting to teach differently, this new mindset? So how do you get people to actually on board on this, especially the more classic lawyers? And how about the law schools?
We don't actually convince anybody. It's an invitation. But lawyers know that the old system is broken, and they are looking for something that they can do to that'll make a bigger difference. And so taking this practice on is one of those ways. And they know their clients are looking for something different. And this is actually fun. Like, one of the things that when I'm training them and they do their first contract, they say, "Oh my gosh, I have never had so much fun writing a contract," and they get to bring in all of the skills they have from everywhere, and like there's there are people in the community that do heart math, for example, or have different assessment tools that they really like. Right now, our students are having they're doing the Enneagram with their clients, so that they can talk about how they get along, and they're having really a good time with it. And so, like, do you want to write an 87-page contract that you don't even know what it says and you're a lawyer? Or do you want to write a contract that's actually going to empower your clients, it's going to make them happier, and you're going to have more fun doing it? It's not we don't have to sell that.
No, it's true. It's true. And I love the way you are saying you're not trying to convince anyone here. It's just people are called to do it. They are welcome. And
Yes.
And I think you have mentioned it so well. Like, we're starting to see that the old model really doesn't work. It's just a terrible experience for the professionals and the clients, societies. It's just complicated.
Yeah, most people don't read their contracts now because, well, first of all, I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer since 1989. Sometimes people give me contracts to read. I don't know what they say. I teach contracts and I don't know what it says. And I just, like, I ask the lawyers sometimes about it, and they say, well, we've been using this form for 20 years and they haven't changed it, not once. And it's, law is not one size fits all. And so there's I lost my train of thought. Oh my.
You got so excited talking about the contracts that you even couldn't understand. So, talking to other lawyers, trying to maybe make sense. The document was there for 20 years. It was never changed. I mean, the world changed in 20 years.
The world has changed. Everything has changed. Everything has changed in the last year. We didn't used to be online having court. I mean, of all things. And so anyway, I think that to go back to the previous question, lawyers don't have to be convinced, and clients don't have to be convinced. And the thing that holds us back is the way it has always been. And then about the law schools, I'm teaching in a law school. We actually have a group, and in December there's a pretty good sized group of people who want to teach this in law schools, and components, and we have a lot of the experiential components that law schools like to have. We're being accepted in to teach this. And
this is amazing.
And so Quinnipiac was brave enough to let us do the first clinic. Hi, Bianca.
This is great. This is great. Well, you can check consciouscontracts.com to get more information. Maybe if you feel the calling, join the next group that is coming up in 27 days in November. You can also stay engaged with this community right here, right there. We are doing those live talks in order to bring awareness to what's happening in the legal world, how different we can get to contribute. What are the methodologies and models that we can use today that have been developed by extraordinary people like Kim, who has been working on this for decades now. And so this is a great opportunity for all of us to be able to actually make this change in our own individual and professional life without necessarily waiting for the permission, but taking permission and saying yes to yourself and starting to do things a little bit differently, because you see it makes more sense for you as a professional and for your client. Kim, yeah, go ahead.
I'm so glad you said permission, because I think that those of us who went to law school are always we have a little bit of that wanting to please, and we think we have to have permission to do things a different way. And I mean, we go to the law society and ask for permission to do things that are strange and different and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of what we're talking about with the Integrative Law Movement is giving yourself permission to be yourself. And that seems so easy and simple, and it is once you've made the paradigm shift, but it can be really daunting to lawyers who think that, they have to fit that box.
So does anyone want to take permission? Let us know right here, right below. If you're ready to take permission, you are granted permission today to do a little change or a bigger change in your practice, in the way you draft contracts, in the way you bring your own humanity to your work as a legal professional, and also in the way you get to contribute to this system change by just reconnecting with yourself, with your values, and having a clear vision. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think we could go on for the entire day. That would be fantastic. But we are trying to keep the talk fairly short, so it's accessible for everybody to be able to tune in. Before we go, I'd love to know the audience. What did you learn today with Kim? Please, please, please let us know right now, right here, right below. It would mean the world to us if we were to know a little bit what is your takeaway. Is there something you're going to start doing tomorrow? Is there one thing you're going to stop doing tomorrow? Please, please, please let us know. We love to have interactions. Don't be shy. Take permission. I see Bianca is taking permission to, give herself the permission. That's exactly it. Offer different options to your clients. Absolutely. Please, please, please let us know. And as you do comments, Kim, what is your next step? And what is one thing we could do to help?
Well, obviously, taking the course will get you into the conscious contracts community, but the integrative law community is open to everybody. If you go to integrativelaw.com, there's a lot more information about it, and there's a place where you can join. We have basically a mighty network group that we just started a couple of months ago, so it's just getting going. We're doing things like teaching in law schools and having we're doing some writing together and doing some interviews. And we think that the time is ripe for integrative law, that the world is ready for it. And we've been sort of underground being our weird selves together for a long time. And now that people are coming out more and saying that they want to live a values-based life, they don't want to have a meaningless job, the great resignation and all of that. We think that people will be more courageous about trying new things, and we want to be there when where they can find us and they can see us.
So this is the website, the Integrative Law Movement, integrativelaw.com. That's right, Kim. And this is where, actually the books of Kim are right here. And there's a lot more information here on the history and integrative law. And a lot more actually for different business areas, which I think is really useful. So make sure to check this website as well if you're interested, and to stay connected with Kim. Kim, what is the best way to connect with you?
jkimwright@gmail.com. That's the best way, or my LinkedIn.
Amazing. So make sure to connect with Kim on LinkedIn. Check the integrativelaw.com, send an email. It's been fantastic to have you today on the show. I really learned a lot. Every time I talk to you or I hear you talk, I'm learning so much. I think this conscious contracting is really going to be a big thing in the future. People are tired of not understanding the contracts and getting into conflictual relationships. Everyone is just here to do one thing, to live in peace, to live happy, and if the contracts can help do better business, build better relationships, and avoid going to court, which can be a really traumatic experience and a really expensive thing to do. I think this is a good opportunity for lawyers who may want to bring a little bit more of that into their practice. So I'm definitely interested in the course too, and I'm really interested in this movement you're leading, Kim. So I want to say thank you for your time today. I want to thank also everybody who's been learning with us. As Rodolphe says, learn to be more fluid in the relationship with client and users. Exactly. We don't need to hide behind a suit. In fact, people will connect more and relate more if you just, are a normal human being, right?
Well, imagine that. Lawyers are human beings.
Is it going to be the next book, Kim? Lawyers as human beings. That would be fantastic. Thanks, everybody who came here today. If you would like to also be a part of the Legal Creatives community, we're here to help you think creatively about how you practice, how you deliver the service, and really also do this mindset shift, especially focused on the design thinking methodology. And Isabel says the course sounds great. This is fantastic. And I want to thank everybody. I encourage also people to tune in on Friday. I'm going to have a guest talk on plain language, which is kind of related to, it's an important component of the methodology that Kim just shared today. Of course, it's not the only thing you need to do for conscious contract, but plain language, I think, is a really important cornerstone in the methodology for the text, at least. So come on Friday for the talk and let us know your questions. It's been great. Really enjoyed it. Thank you again, Kim, for being here today with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really interested if people do what I asked them to do, if they'll come back later and tell us, or send me a private email if you don't want to be public about it.
Yeah, you can just tell back to Kim, what are you going to start doing tomorrow? What are you going to stop doing? And come back for the next show. That was the show today with Kim, advocating for legal system change. That was really fantastic. Thanks again for being here. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And we'll talk really soon to really inspire you and help you do this shift into this new world. The new world of the human lawyer. This is great.
Thank you for what you do, Tessa.
Thank you. Thanks, Kim, for being here. This is great. Thanks, Rodolphe. Fantastic.